Welcome back to the Jersey Sports Network. I'm Darian Kelly, and today I have a number of different sports topics to cover in the realm of sports. But before I get into today's topics, if you're new to this page, if you're just watching this video for the first time, please like, comment, subscribe. Every little bit of support goes a long way. We have an amazing time here at the Jersey Sports Network. So the first topic I wanted to jump into is the Wnba draft. Now, I know the Wnba draft took place this past weekend, but I wanted to do some recap specifically on that because I was truly amazed at a number of different things that I witnessed. So first off, the Wnba draft broke a record for viewership, right? For 2.4 million viewers. Now, the previous record was 600,000, but this year it was doubled and eclipsed at the $2.4 million mark. And it was largely because of who was in the draft. As I mentioned before in my previous videos, I feel as though this Wnba draft class is like the draft class of like the new era, the new age superstars. You had people in this draft that were, when they were back in college, they were there in college during kind of the early onset of NIL. So for the past 3 to 4 years, these particular players had the opportunity to build a brand of some sort that followed them throughout college, largely in part due to NIL. And we kind of really started to see that evolve, not just from the viewership standpoint, but also too with the fashion influence that I've seen at this year's NBA draft. There were a number of different players from, Caitlyn Clark to Angel Reese to Ria Jackson that had outstanding outfits. I wanted to talk about Caitlyn Clark's, for example. She was dressed in a Prada outfit, and it was reported that was the first time Prada has ever dressed an athlete for a specific draft, both on the men and women's sports side of things, which I thought was amazing. You had Angel Reese sporting a Bronx and Bonko specific dress that she was wearing. You also had Ria Jackson, who changed twice on the orange carpet, and she was the most iconic thing about her outfit were the chrome heart glasses. Alyssa Pieli, who was drafted by the Minnesota Lynx, was also sporting an outfit that had a specific type of symbol on it, paying tribute or paying homage to her Samoan roots. So I thought that was really interesting about the WNBA draft was the fashion influence, but also the viewership and the amount of eyes that were particularly on this draft. And the draft was held in Brooklyn. It was held at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. And, one of the things that I thought was interesting about where the draft was held is that given that the viewership numbers were high, and I think that a lot of people anticipated it to break records. I think just with this group of women and the impact that they've had, when you think about Caitlyn Clark was, literally a part of multiple games that broke viewership records. Angel Reese is another one who was a part of these viewership breaking record games back in college. So now that they're in the WNBA, I don't think that viewership piece is going to slow down. But also thought what was interesting after the draft was that Caitlyn Clark's jersey had sold out in every size, right? Every size you can think of, from extra small all the way to whatever the highest size is. It could have been a 4X. All of Caitlyn Clark's jerseys had sold out. And also, too, they released the contract that Caitlyn Clark will be receiving as a part of the Indiana Fever. She was drafted number 1. And everybody was in outrage. They saw the contract. They saw that it was six figures, I believe over 7 years, 300,000 over 7 years. And people were outraged. And what people have to understand is that the reason why there's a huge pay discrepancy between the WNBA and the NBA is because of different revenue splits. Now, I believe that, it's obvious that the WNBA takes a slighter or a smaller piece of the revenue that the league makes that is ultimately turned into salary for WNBA players. And this has been something that has been a trending issue, a trending topic for the long time. I think that because of the star power that Caitlyn Clark has and people seeing her contract, now everybody's in an uproar when this has always been a continuing issue. And even though the W is improving, it's making a lot of different strides. I think that it still needs the support of not just, individuals that were just watching women's college basketball for the first time, but also carrying that over to the professional side of things as far as viewership. I think two great things that took place recently was the news releasing that both the Atlanta Dream and the Dallas Wings have sold out of tickets for this upcoming season. And I think that the W will continue to need that support as far as not just going to the games and following these players, but purchasing their jerseys, being able to being able to truly be invested, not just in these players, but the development of the league. The W is ideally looking to expand to another city. I know that they've already have things in place to launch a team in the Bay Area, but they're also exploring an expansion team in cities such as like Philadelphia, South Florida, Nashville. I'm a little, it's like a little offsetting that Houston isn't on the list, given the history that the Houston Comets have had in the past in the WNBA. Would love to see a team, particularly in Houston. But as the league expands, there's going to be, not just an investment from the fan standpoint, but also I think that the WNBA, when you think about wanting to get into sports or transitioning into sports or where opportunities will lie moving forward, I think that a lot of opportunity from the media side of things will come in the form of covering the WNBA. Only reason why I'm aware of this is because I'm in graduate school right now, sports management at Georgetown, and I'm taking a PR class, and my teacher assistant, who was at the draft, kind of gave a synopsis of what she was able to express and see, and just also too brought to the light of just how in some facets the WNBA has not really invested into its comms, particularly communication when it comes to coverage of the league. But this is also, a testament to the relationship that the Player Association may have with the league. And I know that there's ongoing negotiations as far as that revenue split that I mentioned earlier, so that WNBA players can get paid equally in an equal context. When they're not saying that they want to get paid just as much as NBA players, as Kelsey Plum echoed. I'm just more so paraphrasing what she says, but it has to be some sort of equality there that doesn't necessarily feed into just the endorsement side, right? Because Caitlyn Clark, for example, is, they reportedly nearing a significant multi-year deal with Nike that's somewhere in the 20 millions. And people will look at that, the fact that she has an endorsement, and think that that's the entire WNBA that's securing that type of endorsement money, etc. So I think that we have to keep in mind, of other ways to not just support the W and its players from the equality standpoint when it comes to revenue and salary, but also we got to understand that there's a opportunity for coverage. There's an opportunity, for not just traditional media networks like an ESPN, but also similar, independent media networks such as, Girls Talk Sports .tv or Girls Talk Sports. You have just women's sports, which are prominent media platforms that I think a lot of people need to become hip to if you're, looking to make that long-term investment into not just women's sports, but also women's basketball as well. I think another thing to also take into consideration is when you look at this long-term impact or this long-term kind of evolving of the W, and the fact that you have Caitlyn Clark now into this league, you have stars, not just Caitlyn Clark, but you have Angel Reese, you have Camila Cardozo, you have all these different superstar quality players. And what I found fascinating after the draft as well is that Caitlyn Clark out of this group actually went on the Pat McAfee show and was just talking about how, she's moving to Indianapolis, and, she was going to be a weekly guest on the Pat McAfee show. And I think what I'm learning is that when it comes to brand building or just having a brand, right, I think being able to do partnerships is one thing. I think being able to be appealing to other brands and do commercials and advertising is amazing. But the media piece takes it even further. So with Caitlyn Clark, I don't know if this is like etched in stone. It may or may not happen. But given the reach that a guy like Pat McAfee has, if she's able to go onto his show every week or bi-weekly or what have you, it's going to make a tremendous impact, not just on the Fever in that franchise, but just also the opportunities and the endorsements and things that Caitlyn Clark can embark upon during her WNBA career. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying, is that this coverage of the league and of these new superstars is going to be key, because I think a lot of their success is attributed to their stories. As I mentioned in early videos, is that it all comes down to your story. And when it comes to brands seeing you as an attractive partner, it is all about your story and being authentic. But I think what's going to take it up a notch is not just people, not just the league investing in its communications, but also in communications department and resources, but also too opening up the floor for other media outlets and coverage. Because I think what's going to be key here is that, is this league or are these players going to offer, us more than just these games? These games are going to sell out. The season tickets have already sold for the Wings and the Atlanta Dream, Dallas Wings and Atlanta Dream. But I'll bet you bottom dollar that when Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese face off in the WNBA, it's going to be the most watched WNBA game. Mark my words. But also too, who is covering, Angel Reese on the day-to-day? Who is covering Ria Jackson? Who is covering, Cameron Brink, as she's transitioning into LA? These are the things that we have to think about as we move forward and giving our attention to women's sports. Women's basketball is an exciting time, but I think it also begs to question what is going to be now the new media influence on this league. I mean, you see individuals like Sue Bird, as well as Megan Rapinoe with their own podcast, and Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi have been covering the women's basketball tournament. That's great, but we need to continue to build on that more and more and more, because I think with the investment into the media coverage, I think that the investment into the stories of these players as they transition into the pros, because they're not going to be, they're coming, they're highly touted college athletes, and you have, Diana Taurasi saying that, what's in store for these next group of superstars to enter the WNBA is the reality. And so we got to watch that as well, but we also have to cover, the coverage has to be important. So as we move forward and as we get closer to the WNBA season, be on the lookout for more media outlets, and and also to the W looking to invest not just in the traditional, the ESPNs of the world, but if they're going to continue to build this league and in turn not only just build it but also make some sort of a revenue off of it, the media coverage is going to be key. And you can expect as the season draws closer, and through the course of the season, given that, for example, you're going to see a lot of Indiana Fever games on television, the media coverage or the opportunity for media coverage and storytelling is going to be at an all-time high. It's something that we all should be following. But with that, I'll wrap it up for today. I enjoy talking about these topics. Again, please drop a like, comment, subscribe, share this video to someone who enjoys sports, and we'll be back with you next time.